Folks, welcome to an all-new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Friday episode. You made it through the week. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm proud of myself, as always. I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank my parents. I'd like to thank God. But we did it. Another tough week, but we made it through. We had so many good shows this week. I got to tell you, that Valley recap took it out of me. It's so funny with the Valley. I have to get myself to a point where I get kind of excited to talk about it. And then I think like an hour into it, I was just like, I flipping hate this. I hate talking about this. You know, like it's so hard to express how delusional I am. I think you can just see it, but the fact that I always go into it thinking I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure, like it's a murder mystery or something. Like I'm going to figure it out, and then we're going to figure out why everybody's not getting along and how we can get them to get along. And then you're like, it's reality television. They're all getting paid. Come on, don't worry about it as much as you do. I need to touch grass, and that's what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm recording this super early in the day, which is very abnormal for me. That's because I'm meeting up with the chumps for a Jeff Lewis thing at like 6:30. We're all getting together, which will be really fun. I actually, that's one of the great things about doing the Jeff Lewis show is I've met so many new friends, and as you know, I kind of lock myself in this. So it's great to like get out and socialize, cause it's usually not something that I want to do or try to do, but I really look forward to this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get this done early so I don't have to come home afterwards and do a podcast or finish it up. So let's wish ourselves luck, because this is going to be a Real Housewives of Orange County recap of the new episode that airs on Thursday night. Overall, I thought this was a better episode than last week, even though that's just by inches, maybe not just by inches. But for some reason, I found it a little more enjoyable. Also, on the Valley tip, it's so funny. Rebecca, she'll sometimes like watch it with me, but with the Valley, we'll start it. And then like at some point, and it's usually pretty early on, she'll be like, I can't with these people. I can't, I can't do it. And she'll step away because she's healthy. She's healthier than I am. And then, she tried to watch it again yesterday when I was rewatching it on Peacock, which is the extended version. And she made it like about 30 minutes in. And then that was her cutoff point. She's like, I can't do it. And then Real Housewives of Orange County, she was watching a little bit. And then when Tamra started reenacting sex positions on the floor of a New Orleans restaurant, that's when she tapped out. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. Me personally, listen, I'm a professional. I am paid to watch horror films. But yeah, Tamra laying down on a restaurant floor, like that can't be good for their overall health rating. That restaurant was an A, and then the OC Housewives visited, they dropped down to a C. But yeah, I don't need to know that Eddie likes to have sex with Tamra while she's on her side. And the only reason I'm saying that out loud is I do not want to keep that information just to myself. If you don't watch OC, and that's so funny, a lot of you guys will tell me, I don't even watch the show, I just listen to the recaps. Well, yeah, good for you, but I'm still going to make you face the horror of Tamra Judge laying on a floor on her side saying, this is how Eddie likes it. Nobody signed up for this. Do we get combat pay? My God. I mean, listen, we get all these like amazing warnings at the end of Bravo shows, like domestic violence hotline, mental health hotline, which first off, they should put those at the beginning of the show. But like, I also need like some sort of hotline of like, you're about to see a really gross sexual thing in regards to Tamra. Here's a number if you want to talk to somebody about it. What if they do put that number and it's just like a number to my cell phone? And I'm like, what? Did you see it too? Holy Christ, right? Oh my God. Really scary stuff. I was just like, oh God, I'm going to cut my own genitalia off. I can't deal with this. Anyways, happy Friday. Happy Friday, folks. So we're doing the OC recap, but I'm going to do a couple of news stories before then. And I will say, yesterday at the beginning of the Valley recap, I threw in a story about Kelly Clarkson canceling her Vegas residency. And I had read this statement that she had put up on her Instagram. Unfortunately, I need to postpone the remainder of the August studio session dates in Las Vegas. While I normally keep my personal life private, this past year, my children's father has been ill. And at this moment, I need to be fully present for them. I am sincerely sorry to everyone who bought tickets to the show, and I so appreciate your grace, kindness, and understanding. And then we just got news about 20 minutes ago that Brandon Blackstock, Kelly Clarkson's ex-husband and talent manager, dies at 48 from cancer. So sad news. I think, first off, the overwhelming sentiment for all of us, fuck cancer, right? The easiest thing that you can ever say. I mean, truly, it's like that's the one. If cancer was a cast member on The Valley, it would be great because we would all have somebody to hate at the same time. Cancer will affect each and every one of us, if not directly, indirectly. And it probably already has, but if it hasn't, it will in the future. And that is so sad to say, but it is a sad reality of life. So he was the dad to 4 children, and it is, this is just, it's very sad. And what pisses me off, I was watching one of my favorite TikTok creators, Jordy Cray, who I love. I keep meaning to get him on the show, and he said, yeah, so I got to get him on the show. But he, before this announcement, I was seeing this morning that he had posted the Kelly Clarkson statement and saying that on Reddit, fans were eating her up of like, how dare she cancel? How dare she cancel? Man, you never know what people are going through. I'm not saying this to you guys. I mean, you guys are cool, but like, it really is so frustrating and especially like Kelly Clarkson, who I think usually has been on the up and up. She doesn't really come off as a diva to me at all, is that people deal with life. And yes, it sucks to have to cancel something. And yeah, the people that bought the tickets and made the hotel, but like, death happens and it's a very serious thing and there are children involved. And then that's what I flip and hate about Reddit. I was talking about this in regards to Janet yesterday, is that it's like people gassing each other up to be more hateful and more hateful and more hateful. And I'm not saying that's all of Reddit. There's like good that, you can learn a lot, but like, it just seems like people gassing, this is just bad after bad after bad. And there's like this glee that people seem to get from it. And that's the frustrating part. And I think social media is so good in so many ways, but like I just keep thinking, man, like we just know way too much about each other. And usually it's not the things that make us happy that are promoted. It's the things that make us upset. It's the things that completely divide us. And that's what I was like, man, cancer, at least we can all get on board and say, it would be great if one sole person of like, well, I think you're being unfair to cancer. It's not all bad. Come on, Ryan, you're being unfair. No, but like, I just think that hate promotion is so intense. And I even think about myself in regards to that, because I come on here and bitch about these reality shows and I try to do it empathetically, but even then I get caught up in it. I will have a reaction to a character on a reality show. And yeah, I do call him a character, even though they supposedly are real life people. And I will be infuriated. I mean, and I try to do it in a joking manner, but man, I even have to catch myself sometimes. And you're like, yeah, Ryan, we know. Right? It's interesting. Now, kind of in regards to Real Housewives of Orange County, but reality television as a whole, I think what it is, and I've said this ad nauseum, is when you don't have real friend groups and you just have actual coworkers that have put years in with each other, it's a very different viewing experience, and you have to keep reminding yourself. But on OC, to me, it is tragically apparent that these are coworkers. It's like people that have to film together and they put up with each other, and there are real friendships. Like Emily and Gina, I believe that's a real friendship. But the rest of them, it seems like they come and go as they please. I'm sure they don't communicate much on the off season. And to me, that lets the tension out. I want to know that there is skin in the game, that there is something on the line. Now, the Valley's going to be interesting to see what happens in the third season because I feel like this is, for the most part, a friend group that was strong. Danny and Nia, I don't think ever fully participated in the friend group. I think their connection obviously was through Jax, through Danny, and you can tell. But also, Danny and Nia, they had, 3 kids. 3 under 3, man. So it would be potentially weird if they were always hanging out. And I don't know. I'm not making excuses, but you can kind of tell they're on the outside of that friend group, even from the beginning of the first season. But what will be interesting, there is so much hate on the Valley, is that I feel like on the third season, if not the fourth, you will see them turn more into co-workers. Because realistically, if you guys are coming for each other in such a way that it is so harmful to your mental health, in what world would you ever choose to hang out with them? So I'm really curious. Like, if I were to diagnose, which I have no right to do that, I would say for all of those people to re-examine their relationships with Brittany, because everybody seems to fight over her to the point of unhealthiness, where it's like, is it worth it to fight over Brittany? You know how many people there are in the world? Do you know that you could literally turn around and, like, at this point, once you get to the third season, usually of a show, people then all of a sudden come out of the woodwork and want to be friends with these people? They're like, oh, they want to be seen with these people. I've seen it happen so many times. You saw it with Vanderpump Rules all the time. That's right. There's like a circle of people surrounding them that always say they're there for the right reasons, but if given the chance, they would hop onto a reality show like nobody's business. In fact, it's really interesting. And I always think, let's use the Valley for an example again, is that Simon Curtis, I believe his name is. He's a musician, a writer, but he's also really good friends with Janet, and I think a couple of the other people, Ariana. He was also on The Valley season 1 with Jared, Janet's other friend, and Jared had been talked about a lot the second season, but not been in the show. And Zach made some merchandise, which we did a story on the recap last week. That kind of made fun of Simon's pink boots that were made fun of the first season. And Simon called him out of like, how dare you kind of make fun of me? This has been like years past and like you make fun of me, blah, blah, blah. And then I just saw that Simon had done an interview on a podcast and went further into this. And I always think it's interesting that I'm not commenting about Simon's anger towards Zach. Like that seems very understandable. What I'm commenting on is like the time in which this stuff seems to bubble up. And it usually always seems to bubble up right before a season starts filming. And this is in all reality television. And my question with that is this these people auditioning for a place on the next season? Like, why does it always come right before a season starts? And if I was a producer, in some ways that's a smart move, because if I was a producer and I saw this, I'd be like, okay, well, that could be an automatic storyline. We could get Simon back on and obviously Jared back on, and we could come at Zach. These producers, this is not reality. This is not a documentary. This is a reality show. So how this works, in my limited understanding, is that they do sit down with all the cast members and they interview them ad nauseum. They interview them multiple times throughout the season. And I'm not talking about the talking head interviews. I'm talking about just what's been going on in your life. What do you think? What's been upsetting you? What's been making you happy? And they start culling this information and they start like thinking of like, oh, that could be a storyline. This could be a storyline. And it doesn't mean they're forced in. They're locked into that storyline, but they've got to start somewhere, right? They don't just go like, well, let's see what the vibes are. Let's just pick up a camera and we'll go to like a fucking rage room and we'll see what pops off. No, that's not how reality television is done. They do not have unlimited money. This is not a Christopher Nolan film. They have to run and gun. They are quick in their production, and especially they've gotten quicker as the years have gone on, I've heard. So they already know. So if I was a producer on The Valley, I would look at that and go, okay, well, Simon's making a lot of noise, and it's coming at Zach, who had a really decent second season, according to the fan base. So could we mess with that a little bit? Could we rock that world a little bit? So in my mind, that would be potentially making my job as a producer easier. Now, the fans usually kind of rail against that of like, oh, we don't need to see that. We don't need to. But they're listening to us to a degree. They only usually listen to us, though, when a show airs, and then you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they want us angry. It's like what I said. It's like the Reddit thread. You want that anger. Because even our collective outrage at a show like The Valley, we have glee in a collective outrage. And I know maybe you're like, no, that's not how I feel. Then I will just speak from my own personal experience, is that there is communion with each other in talking about the toxicity of that show. So I just always find it very interesting when this stuff like information kind of pops around the internet with other people that are on the sidelines of the Valley. And I always just wonder, is it people soft launching into a third season? Is it them trying to get on the third season? And once again, I am not saying that anger that Simon is talking about in regards to Zach is not warranted. Not saying that at all. But there is something to be said of don't participate in the toxicity, live your life. You know, you have the not upper hand, but you know, you're living your clean life. Let that person stew in their own hate on reality television. But when you put it out there, then it makes it seem like you want to be part of the mix. And besides money, I'm finding it harder and harder to understand why people want to do this to themselves. Why people want to put themselves up on TV, put themselves up, as Melissa Gorga would say, on display, so we can pick apart every little facet of their personality, good and bad, but mostly bad. And that's something that day to day, you'll hear me get frustrated because it just does not make sense. So that's some opening statements here from So Bad It's Good. How are you guys? Are you good? I don't think I got to ask that, man. I always wish this was a call-in show, but they haven't invented the technology for podcasts like that yet, I don't believe. They did on the first season of In Just Like That. Do you remember? Carrie did a podcast with Che Diaz, and it was a call-in podcast, and I was like, what kind of weird future are we in? That was the first mistake In Just Like That made, which, by the way, tonight is the second to last And Just Like That. I talked about this on the Patreon the other day, and I was like, in celebration and in memorial of these last two episodes, I was thinking about doing full recaps of these last two episodes. And I don't know, I released so much already, so I don't know if I would just put that on Patreon. But I feel like it's like a diary entry. It's like something I have to do to exercise my anger and the demons of how I feel about And Just Like That leaving the air. I'm so upset. It was something I looked so much... See, now that's good hate. We talked about the bad hate. That's good hate. Because I can laugh at that hate. That hate isn't like, the hate isn't something where because I realize it's a fictional world for the most part. I mean, truly, it is this is fucking Narnia on And Just Like That. I mean, you like, this is Lord of the Rings shit. Like, I don't have to worry, like, precious. It's like Gollum stuff. I know Gollum doesn't exist in the real world that I mean, who knows? I mean, mouse, maybe some, anyways, that's a fun thing to hate. Because it seems like something that is not tethered to the actual real world, even though they feel like they are presenting something that's the real world in New York. By the way, the city of New York should sue And Just Like That, because I just can't help. I don't think that's good for tourism at all. You know, tourism is down across the board, and I just don't think this helps. So I'm really thinking about recapping those final two episodes, because I just love talking about it so much. But I don't know. Let me know if that's something that would interest you, but maybe I'll just go ahead and do it and then put it up on the Patreon or something. I know I put so many episodes here on the main feed. Okay, a couple more stories before we get into the recap. Okay, let's move on to some Real Housewives of Miami news. I think they're having a fantastic season. Now, I did not get to watch Wednesday night's episode yet. I'm saving that for tomorrow. And I don't really talk about it tons on this show. And so it's one of those really enjoyable shows for me, because I can just sit there and act like it was me in 2007 watching Housewives before podcasting existed for me, where I just like sat there and like ate a block of cheese in my underwear, as that's what you're supposed to do, by the way, when you watch Housewives Housewives. But they released the reunion seating chart, and this thing is a mess. So Andy, of course, in the middle. I mean, this is such a mess that I was like, maybe Andy's not going to even be in the middle anymore. He's like third chair or something. So you have Andy in the middle, and then you have Stephanie to the right of Andy, and you have Alexia over there on the other side. Stephanie is a first season housewife. No offense to Stephanie, but did she buy her way to that first chair? All I can imagine is that things must really pop off between her and Alexia even further for her to get that first chair. But the greatest disrespect of all is that goes Lisa after Stephanie and then Gertie. Gertie should have been before Lisa, and Gertie should have been before Stephanie. I mean, that's flipping ridiculous. And then you have Adriana at the end. I love Adriana. I think I talked about this at some episode this week. Maybe it was with Josh, the Roni Stan, on Wednesday. I love Adriana. She was on Watch What Happens Live last night. Haven't gotten to see it yet, but I cannot wait. So then on the other side, Alexia, and then you have Larza, and you have Julia, and then you have Marisol and Kiki. And I don't know, this just seems like a little bit of a mess. So maybe it's a sign or a little clue on what's to come for this second half of the season. But Real Housewives of Miami, I read a report saying that it was 14% higher in viewership than it was last season. So that's a good sign. And I did read something saying it was already renewed for another season. But in terms of media landscape, that's another one of how do we get people on board with shows to make them a part of the discourse. Like even myself, like I said, I'm not watching it till tomorrow. What is it going to take for even me to watch it the night that it airs? And I guess just like there is so much, right? Not even in terms of reality television, but everything. There is so much of everything. And then on top of it, I heard that we have family and friends that we're supposed to communicate with. But like there is so much television. And now everybody is in the reality show business on top of just actual narrative fictional storytelling that's really at its peak as well. So that is the seating chart. I'm livid about the Gertie thing. Even if you do not like Gertie, I mean, it still is pretty wild. At her cancer function, she showed texts between her and Julia. I'm not a huge fan of Julia this season. There seems to be something super wacky in her life, and that's another mystery where I'm like, let's go deeper. Something's up with Julia. I do not think Julia will come back next season, and I really hope I don't see Martina on this show at all any longer. So we have that. So that's news. Also, in terms of streaming numbers, this was interesting. This was via the entertainment periodical Variety. These are the amount of minutes the top 5 shows in the U.S. were streamed in this last week. Coming in at number 1, Netflix's Happy Gilmore 2. Guess how many minutes this was streamed in the last 7 days? 3.6 billion. Sorry, this is the week ending July 31st. Week ending July 31st, 3.6 billion minutes. So that movie is close to 2 hours, so I'm like 120 minutes of those, but 3.6 billion minutes. That's number 1 by a landslide. The second is also Netflix. It's K-pop Demon Hunters, which I guess is a kid's show, but I was like, damn, kid shows have gotten intense. Demon Hunters? Make me a kid again. And then 3, another Netflix. This is a movie, Tyler Perry's Medea's Destination Wedding with 162.3 million minutes. So you went from 403.7 million for Demon Hunters to 162.3 million for Medea's. That was the third. These are all Netflix so far, even though this is all of streaming services. Number 4, we have a new streaming service, Amazon Prime Video. It's a movie called Heads of State with 101.2 million minutes viewed the weekend in July 31st. And this is a movie, I'd never heard of this movie, you guys. It's with John Cena and Idris Elba. I love Idris Elba. And John Cena's pretty funny, but I didn't even know that movie existed. That could be an AI movie for all we know. And then I actually want to check this out because I hear this is so good it's bad, so bad it's good. The title of the I forgot the title of the show, but I actually hear it's just so bad it's bad. It's called War of the Worlds with Ice Cube, and that had 98.1 million minutes. And this movie is like, it's a static shot of Ice Cube, I guess. And he's like the technical director for some government agency, and aliens come, and you see it through all like these like little video screens. And I've seen a lot of clips on TikTok, and it looks horrible. It looks like Ice Cube didn't memorize his lines. And I love a good bad movie like that. So I'm almost thinking of dabbling into War of the Worlds. Have you guys seen this at all? Please tell me somebody out there has watched it, and let me know if it's like really fun bad or just bad bad, because there is a difference. You know, we just talked about it just like that. So those are the top 5 streaming shows and movies. The top 5 movies that have been streamed the ending July 31st. That's crazy. Also, in terms of catching up with what to watch this weekend, we had the Las Culturistas Culture Awards that aired on Bravo. Was it Tuesday night? Yeah, I think Tuesday night, and it streamed on Peacock the next day, which with an uncensored version. And I got to check out most of this. I have a little bit more to watch. Obviously, this is based off the Las Culturistas podcast hosted by Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang. And what I loved about the award show, and actually I watched the nominations that they did on their podcast, which I think was almost even funnier than the show. And I'm not a regular listener of Las Culturistas, not out of any spite or anything like that. Wouldn't it be good? Because I'm just spiteful about them. No, but what I love about them, and what I loved about the award show, is that it truly seemed to come out of joy. You know what we're talking about? It was a hoot. It was a laugh, and it was like a weird sense of humor, which I love. And it obviously was one big long commercial also for NBC Universal and Bravo, which I also love. But I like Matt and Bowen. I don't know them personally, but they just seem to attack everything with such a great joy. You know, like, I mean, who knows what they're like in their personal lives, but they just seem like happy people. And maybe I'm misreading that, but like, that's what I love too. I'm like, oh my God, they just seem happy. They seem really just kind of full of joy, and they're able to like do some really cutting jokes, and they have very strong opinions on Housewives. In fact, they were on Watch What Happens Live on Monday, and Matt let it like unleash in regards to Real Housewives of New Jersey, where he was like, get rid of Teresa. I miss the other Jersey girls. Bring them back. Give Teresa a spinoff, which I've always said here. No hate towards Teresa. She's a legend. But at some point, you're going to realize, how much longer am I going to bash my head into a wall hoping that Teresa and Melissa come to some sort of understanding? It's not going to happen. Not on my watch. No, it will never happen at this point. And for us to invest any more of our time, I would rather watch War of the Worlds with Ice Cube. But he said that, and I loved it. And Andy said in response that they're very close to figuring out what to do with Jersey. Those are the meetings that I would love to be a part of. I mean, that I would actually want that to be a show. Do you remember the last season of Oprah Winfrey's talk show? They had like a docuseries about filming that last season, and I loved it. I loved that. I used to love the Oprah Winfrey talk show so much. Not loving Oprah in her retirement. I mean, it just seems like she's yachting all the time with Jeff Bezos and Kris Jenner, but to each their own. I mean, and also, that's not aspirational. Who wants to be a billionaire if you have to hang out with Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez? No offense if you guys are listeners to the show, Jeff and Lauren. Congrats on the wedding. I mean, I was watching a clip of them on TMZ dancing at some like club overseas, and, you know, like sexy dancing, and Jeff Bezos is like trying to dance, but he looks wooden. He looks like a wooden Lex Luthor. And you're like, Jeff, I remember you when you were just a full-blown nerd, and I loved full-blown nerd Jeff Bezos. And now Jeff Bezos looks like he's been pumped full of human growth hormone. He looks like he has veins everywhere. He has like, I mean, it's completely ridiculous. And I love that he said, no, I just work out with the trainer. Yeah, who's the trainer? Jax Taylor? Are you fucking kidding me? So anyways, Las Culturistas Culture Awards, it brought a smile to my face. You got to be in the right mood, and you've got to be prepared for some jokes to just go over your head. But I love that. It, to me, is in that best week ever kind of genre that I used to love on VH1, where we had shows that talked about pop culture. And I mean, I know that that's what we do here, but I'm talking about shows that were on cable television, shows that were out there. And in in regards to coming once again to some sort of monoculture, the brilliant podcaster and writer Sam Sanders always talks about the monoculture. And I love that, is that there was once a time when we all watched the same thing. And that's almost nearly impossible. We only have few moments of monoculture now. And even those are not nearly as viewed or talked about. Like, I guess you could say Wicked for a brief couple of weeks was monoculture, that everybody was talking about it, right? And I want to get back to that place where we are all kind of discussing like 10 of the similar things. But now, and I guess that's cool in a sense, is that we all have all these like little diversion fan bases. And I mean, my goal before I die is to try to understand each and every fan base there is. Truly a goal. Now, not promoting Jax Taylor at all, but I did notice that he has a podcast that he is still doing in the mind of Jax Taylor. And I saw a clip on TikTok. You know how I was talking about that Justice for Jax Taylor Twitter account that's using AI? And then a couple weeks ago, I stopped really covering them because I was like, this has to be a joke. And if it isn't a joke, it really scares me for society. And I have enough things to scare me about society right now. I was like, the way this is written has to be a joke. Well, Jax Taylor has Justice for Jax Taylor on his new podcast. And it turns out it's a couple. It's two people. And the clip that I saw, they are masked. They're in hidden identity. So I was hoping it was Carrie and Laura from Sexy Unique podcast, but it is not them. But once I saw them masked, I was like, oh, it's fully a joke. This definitely is a joke account. But even with joke accounts, they're going to take the publicity. They are going to go on Jax Taylor's podcast. So I'm not saying I'm going to listen to that podcast, but I'm hoping that more people put more clips on TikTok of that so I can kind of get to the gist of what they're saying. Okay, and in more movie news, and this is going to matter just to a small fraction of you, but I'm a huge Batman fan, and Robert Pattinson's The Batman came out so many years ago, and they have finally announced today that they are going to shoot The Batman 2 in spring of 2026. And this is how time works for me now, where I was like, are we in spring of 2026 right now? And it turns out we're in the summer of 2025. So we still got a whiles until they shoot The Batman 2. And then DC and Warner Brothers is saying that Batman 2 will come out October 1st, 2027. So it's not going to even be a summer movie. It's going to be October 1st of 2027. So I got a long ways away to wait. So I have to stay alive until October 1st, 2027. That's the goal as of right now. So yeah, and Robert Pattinson, he has like an insane lineup. He just did this movie that's on Max right now called Mickey 17, directed by Boon Jong-ho, I think his name is. He did the amazing film Parasite that won all the Oscars. Parasite is just one of the best movies ever. Best. He did Mickey 17, which was so-so, but I appreciated the effort. And then he's doing Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which comes out in less than a year now with Matt Damon. It's just like this insane cast. He's doing that. And then he signed up for the third Dune movie. I think it's called Dune Messiah, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's doing the Batman. So Robert Pattinson is booked and busy. And just to think, I remember making fun of this kid when he was on the Twilight series, when he was Edward. And now look at him. He's just a fantastic actor and he's playing Batman. Now, don't let that confuse you. I talked earlier, there's going to be another Batman movie in the world of the James Gunn DC universe who did Superman. And allegedly that is going to be the actor Brandon Sklenar who will be playing that version of the Batman. And James Gunn's universe is a little more positive, a little more quippy, a lot of characters. So I think that Batman will be so worlds different than what we see of Robert Pattinson, which that Batman seems to be set in the real world in a sense. Okay, let's get on to this OC mess. We are dealing with season 19, episode 5, and this is called The Big Uneasy. Do you see what they did there? The Big Easy, because they go to New Orleans, but this is a bunch of toxic people, so it's The Big Uneasy. And oh, did I laugh. We start off, as we always do, with scenes from previous episodes when Heather Dubrow had her birthday party 2 months after her actual birthday at a place that used to be a Christian broadcasting network. Very tacky, very unlike Heather Dubrow. It was weird. And it was like all my favorite things. And her favorite things were caviar, champagne, Two men writing haikus at old-fashioned typewriters, and ganja, smoke weed every day, where we saw Terry Dubrow hitting that weed strong. I love that Terry Dubrow is on Botched, and I just keep thinking about Terry Dubrow smoking a big fatty before he works on somebody's like extended nipples. Like, it's so weird. So we had everybody dancing and eating caviar, and obviously Shannon got into it with Katie Janela. Katie left with Matt, and then on the outside, Tamra came up to Katie. They got into an argument, and also Shannon brought Joe, even though she was scared to go to the party because of the situation with Ryan and the lawsuit. Then we have a scene with Travis and Gina talking about showing the house. And she's like, the thing with Travis and his ex, I'm living with fear. Because Travis's ex, who we've never seen, but has made their life very difficult. And so that gets brought up a little bit this episode. And then we had the scene where Katie, speaking to the ladies, Katie, I love to speak with bloggers, Janela, saying like, I'm so sorry that I hurt you, Gina. And Gina's like, I do believe you, Katie. I do. I really do. And then Jenn and Ryan hanging out with Gretchen and Slade while Tamra was hanging out with Heather Dubrow. And Tamra's like, Jenn is hanging out with people who don't like me. And I was like, that could be anybody. So many people dislike Tamra. And then Gina having a scene with Gretchen and Jenn where Gina was like, Tamra says you're insecure. And you wanted to be Tamra, like single white female. Who wants to be Tamra? No offense to Tamra. But like, I mean, truly, is that the one you're going? I mean, just even in terms of like, wouldn't you rather Heather just because of the money? And then we ended last week's episode with Jenn Pedranti at a Mexican restaurant with Tamra going, how dare you? How dare you say the things that you're saying right now? Jen's like, how dare you put yourself on that much of a pedestal? You are so sick. And Tamra's like, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave. And Jen's like, I think you should. It is so interesting to me is that Tamra is truly one of the best shit talkers we have on Bravo. And she's always been. But if she even gets the lightest of criticism, it rattles her like nobody's business. And what's brilliant about Tamra is that she gets it to a place where usually nobody is able to have anything stick on her. And the criticism is relatively light compared to her behavior and what she potentially deserves within this group of ladies. But she gets rattled so quick for somebody that talks that much shit. You know, sometimes people will be shit talkers and then they'll get it back and they'll be like, I appreciate the tete-a-tete. I appreciate the dialogue. You know, it keeps them on their toes. Not Tamra. But Tamra in a talking head's like, I just don't see where Jenn and I can move on. I really don't. She can fuck off. I don't want anything to do with her. I mean, truly, Jenn should troll Tamra for the rest of the season and just wear Cut Fitness shirts. Remember when Cut Fitness went out of jail and Eddie was like selling all the equipment? I think it was during the pandemic. And really, there was a true part of me that I was like, I want to buy like a dumbbell or something. I wanted to buy something from Cut Fitness because that's a piece of Bravo history. So we start off the episode, we're obviously in the OC, and we're doing like round robin with all the cast, and we first go to Gina and Travis's house, and Gina's throwing a little shindig, and so she's washing all her glasses. I see like 8 glasses in the sink, and I'm curious if that's the only glasses they own, but everything's getting set up, and Travis, he seems like he's moving slow because he has huge balls, you guys. Have you ever heard this? Travis has got huge balls. But anyways, Gina's like, can you put Queen Latifah in the garage? Queen Latifah, I don't want it to freak anybody out. And Queen Latifah is Gina's vacuum. And immediately, we shouldn't have a vacuum have more presence than half of the cast on the OC. I was like, have Queen Latifah be a friend of, because already, I'm like, what's Queen Latifah's story? That vacuum has a lot of personality. So then we go from there. We go over to Shannon, and Shannon is with her her one glam lady, which we saw last episode as well. And I pitched this on Two Judgy Girls. We need some kind of spinoff of just glam squads, because it seems like this is where the real dirt is talked about and where they really open up, because these ladies only trust their glam squads at this point. They do not trust each other at all, you know? And Shannon's talking about going over to Gina's, this little housewarming event. And Shannon's like, I gotta get something for her. You know, she got me a candle last week. I can re-gift it. And the glam squad lady's like, oh, you're bad, Shannon. You're bad. You're so bad. And then we go over to Jenn Pedranti's house, and Ryan is bringing down 2 dresses to Jenn. And we're reminded that Ryan is limping because he just had knee surgery. Jenn is getting glammed as well. He brings up like a cheetah dress, and she's like, it looks pretty on you. I totally would believe Ryan would dress in a woman's like dress. I don't know. For some reason I saw that and I was like, I could see it. And then we go over to Gretchen, and Gretchen also has a glam team, but her glam team, it goes a lot. It's one lady, but she goes a lot heavier on the foundation. And I was like, is that just what Gretchen comes to the glam with, is already just like a heavy shackle base on her face? And I will say, I find myself agreeing with Gretchen in most of these episodes thus far. I do not agree with anything that Gretchen speaks about in her personal life or anything that she truly believes in. I am diametrically opposite in terms of beliefs, but I will say seems to be a common sense, especially when calling out Tamra, that I agree with. She knows where the bodies are buried in regards to Tamra, right? But anyways, we hear Slade in the background going like, you're going to go see Captain Evil? We assume is Tamra. And Gretchen's like, you stop it, Slade. You stop it, crazy. I'm going to break your dick again. You watch it, or I will break that dick in 3 different places. And so we go back to Gina's housewarming party, and we actually have a chef there, and the chef is making like a seafood charcuterie thing, and I'm seeing like crab legs and like oysters, and I don't know, like oysters at Gina's house. Something worries me about that, you know? But Gina comes in and is like, it looks so good. Wow, it looks so fancy. Casita Gina, can you believe it? And we have a doorbell, and it's Emily, you guys. Emily is there in a denim ensemble. She is like a denim skirt, a denim top. Justin Timberlake would be proud. And then we see Katie Janela enter, Katie being invited to this event. We should leave devices at the door, though, at these events. Like, put down your phone, and then they should be felt up. Like, are you wearing a wire for the FBI? We see Gretchen come in. Gretchen seems to match the walls in the foyer, just the makeup base. We get another doorbell. It's Jenn Pedranti. Yeah, it's Jenn Pedranti, and Gina's going to give a tour of the place. And we go to Nicholas, her son's room, and he has a computer and some Funko Pop toys. And then the daughter's room, bunch of toys, like double bunks in there. And Emily says in a talking head that she is so happy for Gina and this move upwards. I'm happy for Gina, too. It's awesome. We actually see the laundry room, and the laundry room seems a little bit of a mess. So I love that Gina keeps it real in the sense of, I'm having the ladies over, but I'm only going to pick up the downstairs area. Emily says this is her interpretation of how much she's grown and how much work she's put into her career. And we still have a wicker lettering that says beach. God bless Gina. I mean, it's so reminiscent of my mom in so many ways. Like this screams home goods. It just said, I'm going to get this wicker sign that says beach. Yeah, beach. But Emily says she deserves it. So everybody's like, it's beautiful. It's big. For Gina, it's big. And Gina's like, I'm happy you guys are here. Talia, my chef, made a bunch of yummy stuff. We've got gumbo. We've got jambalaya. Yeah, a nice summer party in the OC with jambalaya. But obviously, these are New Orleans type foods because she's about to announce the New Orleans trip. Anyways, Gina is asking, like, who was at the boat party? You know, last season. Who was at the boat party? Yeah? Did you get the opportunity to meet with Tamra, Gretchen? No, did you get to meet with Tamra, Jenn, not Gretchen? Did you get to meet with Tamra, Jenn? And Jen's like, I did get to meet with Tamra after Heather's birthday. And it started with this whole, I'm obsessed with her. And Gretchen is like, oh, Lordy. Oh, Lordy. I still wish they'd put a Facetune filter. I don't know if that technology exists for television, but it would be funny to troll Gretchen a little bit because she would always Facetune herself so hard that one of her nostrils would be missing. And I would wish that energy, I wish they would make it such an obvious joke where every time Gretchen was shown, they put like triple filters where she has no nostrils. But Jenn keeps going. She said, I was a single white female. And Gretchen's like, Zoinks, you're a single white female? Gretchen's like, I'm the only single white female here. Jenn goes, I've taken pictures of her to go to her doctor to look like her. And Gina goes, well, actually, Heather told me Tamra pulled out her phone and pulled up this former fatty photo of you. And we get shown the photo again that Tamra had shown Heather. Now, this isn't by the way, she's on the in, so anybody that's on the in photo, the angle's already weird, but she's not fat. She's wearing like a loose blouse. It's just that her face looks really different and her hair looks like kind of different. If anything, this is just such a prideful photo just to see how Jenn looks like now, but it is not a fatty photo, but it is also just so fucking tasteless. And this is why Tamra hits so below the belt, and it's like, you got to just take the licks that you're given because you give so much shit to other ladies. But Gretchen, once again, is shocked. Like, what? And Jenn goes, what is Tamra's point? In a talking head, she says, this is ridiculous. How do you cry? How does Tamra cry about this low point that she's in and all your therapy sessions, but you are still finding time to like diddle around and find a former fatty photo of me? I mean, listen, Tamra can get a lot done in a day. That's all. And maybe she just hasn't gotten that part of therapy yet where we talk about phone usage. Who knows? Emily says, I have lots of fatty photos. If Tamra would like them, I mean, she, show them to people. And then she goes, in fact, I actually post mine. I don't even care. I wish Emily was eating in that talking head. We go back to Jenn, and Jenn says, fuck your fatty photo. That's a t-shirt right there. Fuck your fatty photo. All my photos, I feel fatty. I feel like Tamra's about to bust out a photo of me at some point. Anyways, Heather comes in, and she's trailed by an assistant that is bringing in a Ninja Swirl Creamer. So Heather went a step up. It's not just the usual Veuve Clicquot champagne. She brought Jeana a Ninja. She was like, I'm not going to get you a Cuisinart. That's too fancy for Jeana, but a Ninja is right up Jeana's alley. So, Heather's like, this Ninja creamy thing is for you. And Jeana's like, oh my God. Oh, this is so cool. So Heather's doing like the hugs. Everybody, you look great. Kiss, 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 kiss. And Gretchen goes, Heather, how was Paris? What did you go out there for? And she went out there to see her daughter, Max, who's 21 and living over in Paris. And Heather goes, I was there for 2.5 days. Yeah. And Jenn's like, oh, just run over to Paris for 2.5 days, which is totally normal for Heather Dubrow. Heather goes, it's very nice. It is. Can I tell you something? And then finally, our last to enter is Tamra. Now, remember, these entrances are timed. In fact, they are given call time. So they wanted Tamra to come in last. Always pay attention in any Bravo show or reality shows in general for the last person to enter a group scene. That usually is a sign that they want to have a little bit of time for people to talk shit about the last person coming in. And in this case, Tamra. So Emily's like, oh, it's Tamra. Uh-oh. And Tamra's outside the door going, fuck me. In a talking head, she says, after my fight with Jenn, my social anxiety is so high. Like, I'm expecting somebody to come after me at any given moment. Good, Tamra. That's how people have felt about you for many seasons. It would be great if Tamra came in with a Ninja creamery thing, too, of like, I got you this Ninja. Heather's like, oh, my God, we were at the same Target. Gretchen is sitting down with Jenn and says to Jenn, hey, we're not supposed to say hi to her, are we? I don't know. It feels so weird. And it feels awkward. And Jenn's like, it's beyond awkward. So everybody is starting to sit down on the couch, including Tamra with the other ladies. Jenn is awkwardly staring at Tamra. Emily's just sitting there. Everybody's just sitting there. Silence. We hear a whir and we realize Katie has a reel-to-reel tape recorder. She's recording the No, we don't hear that. But Heather in a talking head says, "This is fucking weird. I'm going to keep it real. This is fucking weird." And then Gretchen says, "Gina, what's your favorite part of the house?" "It's the closet where Travis keeps his huge balls." No, Gina says, "It's really nice to have a pantry. And I did like my drawers." I think she means drawers. And Heather goes, "You say drawers and not drawers?" And Gina goes, "Yeah, drawers. It's like drawers, drawers. Emily makes fun of Gina in a talking head. Emily's like, she always has to have coffee. And then she keeps coffee in the drawers. And now everybody is talking heads making fun of Gina's voice. I'm the only one that can make fun of Gina's voice. And then Shannon Beador gets there, but we didn't talk any major shit about Shannon. So Shannon had a huge blow up at Katie thus far, but then I'm trying to foresee into my crystal ball of what will be the rest of storylines for Shannon. They're trying to throw in a little bit of a storyline of she can't find somebody to date her, and even though she was saying she didn't want to date those love hotel guys, in this episode, she's like, none of them seem to be interested in me sexually. And I'm like, don't say this out loud. They're going to watch this. And I don't believe that to be true. I don't know, but don't hang out with them then. So Shannon comes in awkwardly and she's like, I brought you 9 lemons in a bowl. For you. It's like shy Shannon. I brought 9 lemons in a bowl for you. And Gina's like, it's very beautiful. Thank you. Heather got me a ninja. And then Shannon goes, this is so nice, Gina. Wow. And Gina in a talking head goes, she was underwhelmed. It's very Shannon's response. It's nice, lady. And then we flash back to 2020 when Gina was in another place and Shannon came and visited her. And Shannon's like, when did you move in? And Shannon's like, really nice. Really nice. Nice. And Gina's like, she really knows how to make a girl feel good. Shannon in her talking head, she says, well, it is a nice house. It's nice. So Shannon kind of walks in awkwardly, sees Katie, already a little hesitant. So the food is ready. Gina's like, is this jambalaya? Yeah, you have some jumbies. Yeah. So half of the group go outside, half of the group stays in. So inside we got Katie, Janella, Gretchen, Gina, and Tamra. And Gina's like, Tamra, you have to eat. Eat something. And Tamra's like, I'm trying, guys. I can't eat. And Katie's like, why? Oh, Teddy? And Tamra's like, yeah, she came home today. And Gina's like, she has 4 tumors in her brain. And Katie's like, are they going to remove them all? And Tamra's like, no, I mean, she has 2 in her lungs too, tumors. We were in New Orleans 3 weeks ago, Tamra says, for Super Bowl weekend, and she fell down the stairs. And they were like marble stairs. And Gretchen's like, so she was just disoriented? The tumors are pushing on the brain. And Tamra's like, I'm just sad because she's finally feeling like herself, and now she's got to go into treatment. I mean, that's flipping rough. Once again, like we said at the top of the show, fuck cancer. Fuck it. And that happened to my uncle as well. He had brain cancer and he fell at an ATM, I remember. And that was when they realized it affects all of your mobility and your depth perception. And it's just horrible. Now, outside, we have Emily, we have Heather, we have Shannon, and Emily saying, Tamra has had it really rough lately. And Jenn Pedranti's out there as well. And Jenn says, well, Gina said that there's a fat photo going around of me. And I was like, yeah, let's get it off Tamra being sad and let's get to potentially fucking up Tamra in some sense. And Emily says, yeah, Heather, you said something about this. Apparently Tamra had photos of Jenn before. And Heather is chewing on the tiniest cracker ever. And she's like, no, just one photo. Just what that makes it better. It's not a album of photos. It's one photo. And Jenn says, why was there a photo being shown of me? What was the point of that? And Heather goes, well, she was saying she looks so different. She looks, and I said, Heather Dubrow said, she looks cute. And Jenn says, so she showed you to be kind? And Heather goes, no. It was more like you want to be her. And Jenn says, what the fuck is that, Heather? And Heather goes, well, meaning you came to the gym, you wanted to join her gym. And, like from another perspective, another person's point of view. And Jenn's like, Heather? And Heather goes, it's not my fight. I'm just telling you what. And Jenn goes, you were about to say that you see it from her perspective. And Shannon just looks uncomfortable outside. And Heather goes, not from her perspective, from one's perspective. Not hers, one's perspective. Jenn in a talking head says, Heather's always going to go to bat for Tamra. She's scared of her. She knows what she's capable of. Tamra's like, I will end you, Dubrow. I will take all of that botched money. Heather goes, there are two sides to everything. And Jenn's just like, Heather, you're bamboozled. I love when people bring up words that we don't really say in normal vernacular. You are bamboozled. You have been bamboozled. She's bamboozling you. Bamboozled. And Heather's like, zoinks. Because Heather, you will not tell me I have been bamboozled. Heather Dubrow knows when she has been bamboozled, and now is not one of those times. And for Jenn, I bet bamboozled is like a dirty word. Like, ooh, I said the bamboozle word. We come back from break, and we repeat the bamboozled line again because they feel like we've forgotten just what we saw 3 minutes before the commercials. Shannon in a talking head says, I am so not at the place to think that Tamra innocently does anything, and supporting Tamra to the extent that Heather does is just hurting her. And that's my opinion. And then we have a box of Tamra screaming, that's my opinion. And Shannon goes, Shannon made us silly. So Jenn once again says, you're bamboozled. That's fucked up. You don't do that to another woman. Now, in the house, Tamra's already on her heels. She's like, why do I feel like they're talking shit? I love that she has a spidey sense for when people are talking shit about her. Why do I feel like they're talking shit about me out there? And Jeana goes, well, every group that you're not in is about you. Yeah. Don't come for the throne. Come on. Now back outside, Heather goes, so you don't think that's fucked up what you said, Jenn? And Jenn says, why don't you feel that way? It wasn't presented that way, Jenn. And Shannon's like, you don't think that's an obsession? People decide to change their looks. And Heather says, I feel I was very non-committal about the whole thing. And then we flash back to Tamra showing the fatty photo to Heather. I got to stop calling it the fatty photo. That's what they called it. But Tamra says, ooh, look at this. She was heavy. And Heather goes, oh, yes, she looks totally different. But good for her, Heather says. So Heather did in that scene say a little word of encouragement. So not fully bamboozled, maybe half bamboozled, maybe just the bam of bamboozled. Now Jenn in the scene goes, I mean, the undertone, you know her undertone. You know Tamra's undertones. You know Tamra's undertones, Dubrow. Dubrow in a talking head says, I really like Jenn. But is she taking up for me when Katie says things to her about me? What is her response? Not only have I never asked her, I don't care. And that's the problem, because Heather really doesn't care. Because Heather has no reason to care. Heather has an amazing life with amazing children and a husband that likes to take his shirt off in scenes. Heather's great. I do think it is a little weird, but I just think Heather goes to somebody that's been on the show the longest. So she has like some sort of weird loyalty to Tamra. I mean, it is a little weird, but yeah, at the end of the day, whatever happens in these scenes, unless they come for her directly, does not affect Heather Dubrow. Now back inside the house, Katie asked Tamra, what happened with Jenn? And Tamra goes, it went south quick. She started calling me names, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And then Gretchen very calmly says, didn't you call her single white female? And Tamra, she goes, yeah. because she asked me, I heard you said I'm obsessed with you. And I said, now looking at it, I feel like you are. You're reaching out to people that don't like me to build relationships with them. And Gretchen goes, like who? And Tamra's like you. And Gretchen's like, oh, interesting. Gretchen says she honestly needed consoling. That's Gretchen's new business, consoling housewives. Here at Gretchen Rossi's Consoling Housewives, we will console you. Have you been attacked by Tamra? Has she said weird things about you and your family and related to government agencies? Here at Gretchen's Consoling Consignment, we are here to console you 24/7. Except for Sunday, that's the Lord's Day. But Gretchen says, you said completely that Ryan got raided by the FBI. And Tamra says, okay, but I apologized for that. I love people think that apologizing, like, I said sorry, so it should be over. Well, first off, she didn't say sorry convincingly. And sorry is not just like a full get out of jail free pass. Like, it's not just a magic word. Jax Taylor always thinks it's I said I'm sorry. Stop it. I said I'm sorry. No, you sometimes have to have a conversation. Gretchen says, it feels like, Tamra, you're not ever learning your lesson with anything. And Tamra's like, no, I learned my she hasn't. And Gretchen says, no, you didn't, because you went and did the same thing to Ryan. And in a talking head, Katie goes, for the love of God, Tamra, for once, own something. Gretchen says, it's just sad that you keep doing the same thing over and over. And Tamra's like, come on, Gretchen. I don't want to go back with you on all this stuff. You have repeatedly gone after me the past 12 years. And Gretchen says, you're actually delusional. And what's interesting is Gretchen is doing this kind of laid back in her chair. She doesn't even seem like her blood pressure's going up, or Tamra seems to be rattled. Gretchen says, you know what? I'm going to excuse myself. Now, this is, I always am very against people excusing themselves. You've got to be strapped down to these chairs. You've got to lock in. You've got to have these tough conversations. And as Gretchen's walking out, she goes, it's delusional, literally delusional. And Tamra just has like this despondent look, like, Gretchen comes out. Can I join you guys? I don't want to sit by a delusional person. I just, can you scoot down a tiny bit? And Jen's like, did you just have a discussion with Tamra? And she's like, yeah, I was sticking up for you and Ryan. And Emily goes, did you apologize for the Facebook comment? And Gretchen's like, no. And we see the Facebook comment pulled up on screen. It says, you have no idea how your brave words are helping so many who have been wronged by your mother's manipulation and lies as well. When we had talked about in an earlier episode how Gretchen had reached out to Tamra's daughter after Tamra's daughter said something publicly about Tamra. And yeah, tough stuff. But Shannon is basically like, that's like one thing compared to the thousands of things that Tamra has done. I like that Shannon is now fully sees the matrix that is Tamra. But Emily goes, Gretchen, just apologize for that. Show her you're the bigger person. And Gretchen says, I always have to be the bigger person in every situation. In a talking head, she says, you can't reason with somebody who is actually whacked out in the head. Gretchen's like, take it from somebody who is whacked out in the head. I do not want to stoop to her level, Gretchen says. No, she says, I do want to stoop to her level. That's what I want to do. Follow the dark side, Gretchen. So anyways, now everybody's getting called into the house. And they start mud wrestling. No. Emily goes, do you want to see my ass? And she lifts the denim skirt. And it's congrats, Shane. Congrats. We know Shane gets rewarded with butt stuff sometimes, so congrats. Anyways, Gina has all these black boxes, and she's like, can you guys each take one of these? And and then I want you to go to the backyard, okay? And so Gina is going up to like the second floor of the house to do something, and she opens the window and she's dressed like New Orleans. She's got like a purple scarf and like a face mask and like a little green and purple trumpet. And she's like, boop-a-doo! Hello, ladies. You all know I'm no stranger to magic, and I've even had spiritual traction myself. And then we flash back to 2022. Remember when that lady, she like blew out and the lady was like pulling the invisible rope out of Gina's mouth? Truly a bonkers episode. Well, Well, lately, I have been feeling like some of you have been in need of a little voodoo magic yourselves. I have decided to plan a trip to New Orleans. And she throws the beads. I wish she's like, show me your titties. Woo! Everybody feigns excitement. I mean, Heather, she's like, Heather just got back from Paris. But Gina goes, I've never been to New Orleans. I want to try new things. And what's more newer than something that says new? And I feel safer that I'm not drinking, to be honest. I won't be drinking in New Orleans. So everybody's excited except for Tamra. Tamra looks a little reticent to celebrate with everybody. And she kind of walks away from the other group and goes inside. So Gina just keeps going, we're going to Bourbon Street. Woo! Everybody's putting on their little New Orleans masks that are in the box. And Tamra has her mask and she's kind of like putting it in her purse area. And Gina comes downstairs and sees Tamra and she's like, what's the matter? And Tamra's like, it's okay. It's all right. And Gina's like, oh. And Heather comes inside to see this hug. Heather's like, there cannot be a hug with Tamra without me. And Emily comes in. Why are we hugging? What's happening? And Heather goes, because the last time she was in New Orleans was with Teddy. And that's when she fell down the stairs. And Tamara's like, yeah, it was right before the surgery. And Gina's like, oh, yeah, you were just talking about it right in here. And Tamara's like, it's okay, it's okay. And the talking head, Gina's like, Tamra is not very overly emotional person, so watching her get so upset about this is making me realize she really is struggling. Are we just... is that Men in Black thing that makes you forget things? Do they give it to all Bravo cast? Because we just went on the reunion where Andy's like, oh my God, Jax has never taken this kind of accountability, which is full of horseshit. And now in this talking head, Gina says, Tamra doesn't really get emotional. What are you fucking talking about? That's all Tamra is emotions. Are you kidding me? Tamra is highly emotional. She is not emotionally regulated at all. I mean, are we taking crazy pills? But Tamara's like, it's okay, it's fine. I don't want to make a big deal about it. And Heather's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it is. This is a very huge deal what Teddy is going through. Tamara in the talking head says, crying. She's like, these thoughts are going through my head. Just I want the bad ones to go away. I'm trying to be positive. She's going to make it. She's going to make it. Shannon comes in with her mask on and she just stands to the side like I imagine Batman does on the crime scene. And Gretchen's like, Tamra's crying, Shannon. And Shannon's like, about what? And Tamra just keeps saying, it's okay. It's okay. And then Gretchen whispers to Shannon, she's really good at playing the victim. She's really good at playing the victim. And then we cut to commercial break. Okay, you guys, I realized the last 30 minutes there was a little bit of static, so I really apologize for that listening experience. Hopefully I can edit some of that out. And I unplugged everything, plugged it back in. Hopefully it's going to be better, but I apologize. Tech is amazing. Wi-Fi is amazing. Anywho, now we are back over at Tamra's place after she cried at Gina's New Orleans party. And Sophia, her daughter, is there. And I like Sophia. She reminds me of Lydia Dietz from Beetlejuice, even though she's dyed her hair blonde this season. And she is telling Tamra that, her music career, she has 1,000 followers on Spotify. And she's telling Tamra about some of her music, which is exciting. And Tamra loves that she is coming out of her shell. And she says, Mom, this song is about a girl who comes out of her shell and meets a guy online, and then he winds up being a cannibal. And Tamra's like, zoinks! And I kind of was like, well, that's the Tamra Eddie Judge story. I'm joking. But Tamra is proud to see her music blossom and to see her Spotify growing. Holy shit, you're doing it all by yourself. And then Tamra boldly asked her, do you think you would ever do a song with me? Would you be one of the OC Angels? They should do a remake of Dreamcatcher. Shannon Beador's daughters, Dreamcatcher, Dreamcatcher. That was my favorite song ever. But Sophia shoots her down, rightfully so. It's like, no. And she goes, you can't sing. And she's like, why can't you put auto-tune on me or something? And Sophia says, listen, You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's not going to do anything. I love Sophia. By the way, I think they'll have a spinoff with Sophia at some point. And then we go over to Katie's house, and her two sons, Gavin and Bandon, are playing together, and says that Gavin has become the best big brother ever, and that she loves that they're all together, which seems to be Katie's storyline when she is not lying and recording other cast members. And this is the part where it makes you like Katie, that she is a real person, right? You kind of appreciate this aspect of Katie. So then we get out of there, and then we round robin, and we're over at Emily Simpson's place, and Emily is cooking ground beef, and her son with the food issues is like, "What are you cooking?" And she's like, "Son, this is called ground beef." Oh, I remember the age when my mom taught me about ground beef. And he's like, "Do you want to try it?" He's like, "No, it smells weird." He's not wrong. Ground beef does smell weird. Anyways, Emily says she's excited to go to New Orleans, but everything going on with her son Luke is just a lot right now, right? We flash back to 6 weeks earlier when she was talking to Gina, talking about eating disorders is very common with autism. He is so codependent on Emily, and she feels like she's betraying him if she goes off and does something, right? So she sends the kids upstairs so she can talk with Shane. And she says, "Shane, he's clearly on the spectrum. We don't know where." And Shane says, "It's all going to come out in the next week or two." And Emily goes, "Yeah, and I'm excited about that because I don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm failing him." Right? As a mom in a talking head, she says, we constantly have that guilt because when we're parenting, we feel like we're missing a piece of ourselves. But when we're friends, we feel like we're missing our children. And it's so hard to navigate that. And Shane says, "Well, we are in a way, but we're trying to figure out everything that he needs. Every day we're going to have to be on top of it." And so a very sad storyline for Emily Shane, and very real, and not involving Tamra. So now we move to a scene with Jenn and Ryan where they go to their local gym, and she's like, "The wedding workout routine is every day. Every single day." And so we hear a lot of grunts. We're like, the workout grunts, The couple that works together, I don't know what. Anyways, I love these scenes because it's the activity and then they have the scene. And if I was a gym member at whatever gym they're at, I'd be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I'm trying to get a sweat on." But anyways, she says, with anything, you feel pressure to get fit, and, marrying a man that wants me to get married in a white string bikini. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, you're getting pressure from Tamra with the former fatty photos, and then you have a guy that wants you to get married in a bikini. That's a lot of pressure for one woman. Anyways, she's like, "Ryan, you are always beach ready." And Jen's like, "I'm stressing about that, to be honest." And he's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because I'm not wedding ready." Dude, Jen's like ripped up. And he's like, "You look amazing, babe." "Well, thanks for saying that, Ryan." "Yeah, you are wedding ready, Jenn." And so they kiss and he pats her on the tush, and you just see all these people working out in the background. Like, come on, get a room. She says in a talking head, "I struggle with confidence and body image, and so many women do. So the fact that I'm hearing Tamra is going around showing some fatty photo of me pisses me off. How gross are you?" I mean, we know how gross she is. So now they have the serious conversation. She's like, "Ryan, we've done our deadlifts. Can we talk about something?" He's like, "Yeah. I know you're stepping into areas with the kids and I that you shouldn't have to." And she's doing these squats, and I do these squats with my trainer, you guys. I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my God, I do that workout." And he goes, "The things with your ex is weighing on me more than I'm showing. It's problematic for me." And for Ryan to say something is problematic, Ryan says, "It's been over a year. All the kids live with us. You have a lump sum settlement agreed upon in your divorce decree, which he has not put $1 towards." And then all of a sudden we see Jeff Lewis live. He's interviewing Jen Pedranti. And Jeff is getting to the bottom of this financial decree. And Jeff's like, okay, so you get one lump sum of over $500,000 from your ex. Did you get that money? And Jenn says, well, it's actually $200,000. It was from a portion of the sale of our home. And no, I have not gotten any of it. We go back to this scene and she tells Ryan, I don't know why the kids and I aren't collecting support. We're not. We go back to Jeff. Jeff says, I read that in your divorce settlement, you get over $600,000 a month between the child support and the spousal support. And wait, does that can't be right. Over $600,000? I read in your divorce settlement. Oh, sorry, you get over $6,000. I was like, over $600,000? What are we doing? You don't need the show. Over $6,000 a month between the child support and the spousal support. And Jenn says yes. And unfortunately, he has not been able to make those payments. We go back in the scene and Ryan says, I have to step in and pay the attorney to manage this bullshit. And, I have enough respect. If you can't communicate with Jennifer to me, you have to communicate to me. So he's talking about reaching out to the ex. I want to sit with him, he says. And Jenn says, he's not going to sit with you. And Ryan says, it's not to be confrontational. It's meant to say, like, what are you doing? Jenn in a talking head says, I worry that Will, her ex, and his financial situation will always be a drag on my relationship with Ryan. I don't know if one day it will be too much for him. I don't know. Well, I mean, if you lose Ryan, you lose Ryan. But I mean, yes, of course it's something that she's going to worry about. Jenn says to Ryan, the amount that you say you feel weighs on you, it weighs on me tenfold. I am so glad that you are telling me. For 20 years, if I needed to get attention from him, I would get naked in front of him because that would be, like earphones out, laptops closed. I'm sure she does the same thing for Ryan. No, Jenn says, I'm so happy that you're so adamant about authentically living our lives with each other. So I'm so glad that you're telling me because I'm not getting divorced again. It freaks me out. And there's a shot of Ryan going, oh shit, wait, she's in it for the long haul? Jenn says, I don't ever want to be divorced from you. And I want to do forever with you. And Ryan's like, stop, literally stop talking. No, stop. You get so emotional. And I love it. But we're as solid as can be, Ryan says. Yeah, I mean, we're as solid as can be. I mean, Ryan did have that thing with the FBI. Like, I don't think it was proper for Tamra to wear the hat, but he did have some situation with the FBI. And Jenn totally stood by him. So, yeah, they're solid. Jenn in the talking head says, I'm scared about marriage that doesn't work. I don't want to ever go through that again, but I'm not married. I'm not marrying my ex-husband again. I'm marrying my best friend, and that I have zero reservations about. Ryan in the scene says, I guess what I will say is I need to buy more AirPods and keep them in every room. I want AirPods in my car. I want AirPods everywhere. So you can tell me to take them out and get naked. Woo! And then Jenn goes, I need to get back to working out. We're getting married soon. I need to get this ass in shape so you can slap it. Woo! Okay, so we get out of that scene, and then we land over at Shannon Beador's place. And Shannon's already doing physical comedy at our kitchen island. She's like taking the cheese out. Just cheese. And we hear a knock, knock, and it's Jeana. And Jeana goes, I brought a pizza. It's Gina's pizza. Because it says Gina's pizza on the box. And Shannon's like, get some plates. And Gina's like, don't you have paper plates? I love Jeana. Jeana's just so like, I grew up with paper plates, but I love that Shannon would be caught dead with a paper plate. But Shannon's like, no, look at it. Yeah. Then we see all of the plate. It really is an insane amount of plates. I am worried about Shannon's collection of plates. And Gina's like, I've never seen this many plates in my whole life. You got a lot of plates. And she goes, I got rid of some of them. And Gina's like, I'm going to come here when I need to stage a house. And then Jeana in a talking head says, I thought pizza and Shannon didn't get along. No, she says, I thought plates and Shannon didn't get along. And I knew it before. I even told Rebecca, I said, I bet we're going to get a clip of the Kelly Dodd episode of like, it's not my fucking plate, bitch, at the Quiet Woman. We did. So now we're sitting down and Gina's like, how are you feeling? And she's like, I'm fine. I'm by myself And I'm loving it. That is the craziest thing because I always associated myself with being in a relationship. And Gina's like, you could have a boyfriend easily. You have a bench of men. And we flash to the two love hotel guys, Adam and Phil. And Shannon's like, Adam and Phil don't want to date me. I don't think. That's fine. Yeah, but in a talking head, she goes, I don't want a relationship. I think it's nice that every day is an adventure for me. What's going to happen? Who am I kissing? Neck up only. Neck up only. I wonder if she has kissed all these love hotel guys. But Gina goes, can you believe that Tamra is showing former fat photos of Jenn? And Shannon goes, if somebody did that to Tamra, there is a hypocrisy there because she can dish it out, but she cannot take it. True. She can dish Gina's pizza out, but she can't take it. She is mean. Gina goes, I truly don't understand how Tamra can be claiming that she's growing and changing and going through all this therapy while simultaneously showing fatty photos of Jenn. That just doesn't scream growth to me. I love that the former fatty photos is now taking a lead in storyline, No, Shannon's like, what's going on with you? And she's like, well, me and Travis, we're really busy. We showed a house today. Those are good problems. But bad problems include Travis's son we haven't seen in 3 weeks. His ex-wife is stopped taking him to school. And Shannon's like, she's not sending him to school? I obviously know it's her response to us moving back in together. And so then I have guilt about that. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do, I just want to make everybody happy. When is enough here, And Shannon's like, I'm so sorry. In a talking head, she goes, it's really difficult to think that your choices are live apart and be unhappy or live together and be happy, but then have to pay a price for it. That's called adulthood. Shannon says, my ex once said to me, he said, the best thing that I can hurt your mom, he said to my daughters, is to take things away from you guys. What? He said the best thing to hurt your mom is to take and he told his kids that? What a fucking awkward conversation. And Gina's like, that's sick. But I'm not going to give this up because somebody else wants to take it from me, And Shannon goes, do you think that if you guys got married, things would be better? And Gina goes, I don't know, I kind of feel like she's got to ruin it. Oh, are we going to get a Gina Travis storyline? Gina says, how can I think about getting married when this other woman won't even let him go? It's him and his big balls go. It's difficult to maneuver through. So I just don't know if I can emotionally handle this for the rest of my life. Isn't that interesting? It seems to come up a lot on Housewives and maybe in real life too, is can I handle this for the rest of my life? Or will this person that I'm with be able to handle this for the rest of their life? And then Shannon goes, you're not going to have any more children. And Gina goes, fuck no. No, are you kidding me? No, done. And Shannon's like, oh. So now we do a round robin of the ladies packing for their New Orleans trip. Gina's with her dog Meatball, and Meatball farts into her luggage. Shane and Emily are talking about Shane's like, I've been there once. There was voodoo or something. And she's like, oh, people in our group need an exorcism. And then Shannon is on FaceTime with her daughter, Sophie. And Sophie's like, what kind of activities are you doing in New Orleans? And Shannon's like, I don't know, but I don't want to do any voodoo tours. Why do we keep saying voodoo? Did they tell them to say voodoo in these scenes? And then Sophie's like, yeah, because Jesus is your Lord and Savior. And Shannon's like, yeah, because I just don't want to risk any negative voodoo shit coming inside me. And then Sophie's like, and I was like, and we were all like, and Shannon's like, oh, okay, I didn't mean inside. Okay, so the sun goes down in the OC, and the sun comes back up in the OC, and we're at LAX already, you guys, and Gina is in her comfy sweats, and Gina's like, it's not an easy task to get all these bitches to New Orleans on a nonstop in first class. So Gretchen and Katie are there, and Emily, and Gina's like, I basically have to send them in shifts to accommodate all these hoity-toity bitches. And we see they're like supposedly in first class, but it looks like a rinky-dinky first class. So there are two groups. But Gina goes, it's really hard to even get Dubrow to fly commercial, period. And then we cut to New Orleans and we see the beignets and we see the people playing the horns in the streets. And the first group, Emily, Gina, Katie, and Gretchen are in one car going to the airport. And they're wondering if Shannon Beador made the flight. And Emily's like, she is perpetually late. She's very tardy. And then we cut to Alexis again, and Jenn Pedranti's with Shannon, and Shannon's shopping in one of the LX stores, and she's at the Spanx, and Shannon's like, Jenn, do you know I wear Spanx every day? And then we see Tamra sitting alone by herself looking perturbed. And Shannon's like, I'm seeing if they have anything new in the Spanx world. And then we cut to Gina in New Orleans, like, oh my God, look over there. It's decorated with all the beads. We're going to show so much titty. Oh my God. Woo. Anyways, Gina flashes the ladies in the car. And then Gina's like, here we are, the Four Seasons New Orleans. I'm contractually obligated to say the full name of the hotel. It's so nice. Emily and Gina are staying in the same room. Emily says, we always do. We're like Bert and Ernie. And then they laugh. And Gina goes, I'd probably be more Bert because I'm more lankier. No, it's because you have a unibrow. And Emily's like, I'd probably be Ernie, the fat one. Ernie's, first off, you're not fat, Emily, and Ernie's not fat. How dare you? Are you going to start, is Tamra going to show former fatty photos of Ernie? Give me a break. So they're checking into their rooms. The normal song and dance. They go into the rooms like, oh my God, look at this nice room. It's gorgeous. Blah, 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 blah. It's the same song and dance. So the four ladies that are there, Emily, Gina, Katie, and Gretchen, they are on the Riverwalk. They're going on this boat, the Creole Queen. There's an argument about what body of water they're on. And Gina's like, it's the bayou. And it's not. It's the Mississippi River, the mighty Mississippi. But nobody knows that. They're also seeing logs in the water, and they think at first it's an alligator, but there are obviously logs. And then Gina's like, it's a deflection. I bet Tamra put it on there because she's good at deflecting. Ha 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 ha. And then we cut to the other plane, and we see Jenn and Tamra and Shannon and Heather. And I don't know. They're putting nipple cream on. Shannon's putting nipple cream on her lips. I need some sort of health, like beauty lifestyle book from Shannon Beador. Anyway, so now back on the boat, Emily's like, hey, I didn't tell you guys this. When, I went horseback riding the other day, and she was telling me that she went horseback riding with Jenn. And Emily says, Jenn told me that Shannon keeps saying to her, don't roll over on me. And Emily in a talking head says, Shannon likes to have an ally. We flash back to 1 week earlier where Jenn is talking to Emily, and Jenn says, you know what Shannon told me? She would say, you better not roll on me. And Emily says she wants you to not resolve things with Tamra because then she's not alone. Emily in this scene says, which is the exact opposite of what I keep encouraging people to do, which is like, and Gina's like, yeah, I feel like we keep trying to make everybody get along, which is ridiculous to have this conversation in front of Gretchen and Katie because Gretchen hates Tamra, rightfully so. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you guys painting yourself as the peacekeepers? It's ridiculous. And yes, I don't think Shannon doesn't want Jenn to roll over, but in a sense, it's like, yeah, we've got to be reminded of all the shit Tamra has done to these ladies through the years. And now Gina says to Gretchen, I know you have deep-seated issues with Tamra, and I understand you have to work that out. But Emily says, we were trying to start smaller. Maybe we'll work our way up to, and Gretchen says, I'm hearing everything that you're saying. And I've prayed a lot about it. That's always good when they're like, I've prayed a lot about it. And God fucking hates Tamra. No, she goes, I've been asking God to change my heart on the subject, but she has to be willing to take accountability for some of her shit. I mean, I'm kind of agreeing with Gretchen. Gretchen says, I'm all about forgiveness. I think that's what the Bible calls us to do. The Bible doesn't require you to reconcile, though, with people who continue to harm you and continue to hurt you. And that is called, she goes, that is called wisdom. It's called wisdom, but Gretchen says that is called wisdom. Oh, the wisdom. That is called wisdom. The wisdom. Gretchen says, what is it going to take for that girl to stop spinning the lies? I mean, it's going to take her going off the show, I think. That's like Elton John and Rocket Man. Like, you want to hear Rocket Man. Not that we want to keep seeing Tamra live, but I don't know if she knows how to play any other songs. We cut to commercial. The other ladies have arrived at the airport in New Orleans, and it is really funny to watch them get their own bags. Like, Heather Dubrow is putting her own bag on the cart, and it's so weird. And Tamra helps Jenn with her bag, and that's all it takes for Jenn. Jenn's like, oh my God, when Tamra is kind, I'm like, are we possibly going to move forward? She just helped you with your bag, Jenn, my God. And Jenn keeps going, that was really nice of you, Tamra. And then in a talking head, Jenn goes, and the second I feel that, something in my brain says, be careful, because the other shoe might drop. Yeah. Then Shannon's like, guys, are your luggages wet? Or is it sweat on the grip of my cart? And they're like, it's sweat. So of course Shannon got the sweaty cart. We go back to Bourbon Street. Everybody's, playing the instruments, dancing. We see the other ladies check into the hotel room. Heather suspiciously is looking around the room of like, oh my God, I don't know if I can stay here. The Four Seasons is gross. And then she sees a bottle of Veuve Clicquot and she's like, that's nice. Okay. I bet fucking Heather brought a suitcase full of like Veuve Clicquot. Gina is picking Emily's chin hairs, just like Bert and Ernie, you guys. And Emily's like, yeah, I get a lot of chin hairs. And she's like, just like a little witch. A little witch gets chin hairs. Shannon's doing physical comedy with her suitcase. Oh, how do you open this up? Oh, Shannon, where is the thing with the, it doesn't get open. Oh, just physical comedy all the time. She finally gets it open. And then we cut to a knock on Jenn Pedranti's door. And she opens it, and it is Katie Janela. And Katie goes, I have never been happier to see anybody. And then Gina knocks on Tamra's door. Gina welcomes Tamra. Everybody's getting ready for their night out. And she's like, I'm here to grab you. What's going on, Tamra? And Tamra's like, I'm just frazzled. I'm just nervous about going out with everyone. I mean, Tamra really is on her heels. Yes, the Teddy stuff is definitely affecting her. And it should be. But Tamra seems nervous. We cut to Katie talking to Jenn, and Katie says, I did bring up the pictures of you again. They were asking about how unfair it is that she apologizes and then shows a picture of you to Heather. We cut back to 5 hours later on the boat, and Gina's like, what's concerning to me is she has this tendency to say, I want to move on with Jenn, and then she's like, around Heather bringing up former fatty photos. Drink every time they say former fatty photos. And wasn't Gina just trying to be the peacekeeper with Emily? And now she's like, what concerns me about Tamra? And then Gretchen says, exactly, yes. Jenn in this scene says, it's almost like we sit her down and say, your apologies don't work. Gina in Tamra's room says, let's just have a good night. And then maybe that will spiral into more good nights. And Tamra's like, I would love that. I would love that. And Tamra's like, you make me feel so much better, Gina. And Gina's like, woo, we're having fun tonight. We're having fun tonight. And then we hear like the horns, boot, doo, 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 doo. And we see the ladies in two separate Ubers or whatever they're taking. Jenn's with Heather, Katie, and Gretchen. Jenn says it was a peaceful, calm day. And Heather goes, but now we're here. And then in the other car, we have Gina, Tamra, Shannon, and Emily. And Shannon is showing full beeve, you guys. Watch out, Love Hotel. Shannon storms Beavinator. Beador is here. And Emily's like, am I going to be staring at your vagina all night? And now Shannon is like fully legs open, and they've had to blur out her private parts. And everybody's like, I can see your hoo-ha, Shannon. And Shannon goes, that's the point. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're at this nice restaurant. They all check in, and Drew, the host at Muriel's, is like, we're going to take you to this area. And, you're like, oh, thank you, Drew. We're about to ruin your place of business. So Gina's already like, oh my God, I love this so much. It's so much better than TGI Fridays. And Gretchen in a talking head says, I'm just praying to the Holy Spirit. Shannon in a talking head says, I've heard that Ghosts have parties in my house late at night. And I hope they're having fun. Okay, so we get creepy music. They're really trying to lean into the voodoo because they can't really lean into the drinking element, I guess, but they're leaning into the voodoo haunted. So they take them to Pierre's table, who is this restaurant's resident ghost. He was one of the resident owners back in the 1700s. This was his grand estate. And Heather's like, ooh, wow. Heather in a talking head says, wouldn't it be fun to go back and haunt Chateau Dubrow and see what they hung in my closet? See if what they did to my crazy etched windows, if they're still enjoying my towel warming drawers? Woo! I'll just fucking go there and haunt it like as my actual person right now living. So I like that they sat them away from people. So they sat them in this separate room with these hardwood floors, which is fancy, but it's also smart by this establishment. Keep them away from the other guests so we don't get reaction shots. So they're all getting seated down. They're getting introduced to their waiter, Joel. So our server is taking the orders, and Heather Dubrow is like, is the turtle soup turtle? No, we just fucking call it the turtle. Yes, of course it's turtle. And Gina's like, I'm going to have the turtle soup. And Tamra's all grossed out. Emily says that Gretchen, who's wearing like a big old hat, like a big old Kyle Richards hat, and Emily's like, you look like a detective in this hat. Are you solving crimes? And Gina's like, yeah, she wants to know what happened to Pierre. This is the fun part of the dinner when we're just being goofy, you guys. But we know there's about to be some sort of explosion. And Tamra in a talking head goes, another one of Gretchen's costumes. She looks like she clicked on the Shein website and said, give me a rich girl detective look. And for $15, this is what she got. How dare you speak of the service that Jeana collaborates with? Now, Heather goes, Gretchen, do you have to travel away from Skylar often? And Gretchen's like, not too much. And Heather goes, the one thing that I regret is not traveling without the kids. And Gina's like, who's with all your kiddos, Jenn? And Jenn goes, well, they're home with Ryan, and it's actually Will's weekend. And Heather goes, how do Will and Ryan interact? And Jenn goes, they don't ever interact, but they did today. And Gina's like, ooh, how did that go? Will was dropping off a bunch of kids, so he walked up and said, how can you do this? Pay your child support. And Will said, I'm doing the best I can. I love that Ryan was like, just jumped out. Hey, do pay your fucking child support, where is that footage? Jenn says, I'm on the loan for Harrison's school. She says, Will is a very controlled person. And now with Ryan addressing this with him, he is going to need to punish me. I cannot fault Ryan, but I will get blocked again. I won't be able to communicate through text. This is going to move Will and I 10 steps back. So Ryan talking about it all calmly at the gym, it obviously probably wasn't as calm. Emily says, well, I mean, he should pay child support what he ordered to pay. Emily, Law and Justice Emily says, I don't care, if he pays for college over here, that doesn't matter. And then Katie says, I feel for Ryan, to be honest with you, because Matt has been in the same spot as Ryan. And they keep doing reaction shots of Tamra just listening. And Katie says, Matt dealt with my ex-husband once. We were going through a custody issue. My ex-husband said a lot of expletives to him and hung up. Luckily, I married a guy who only ever wanted to help the kids. So I got really lucky, Katie says. Katie says it's got to be hard for Ryan. It does. And Gina says it's so difficult to step back and have to be the person that does nothing. Travis, the guy with the big balls, was contacting my child and my ex-husband. Travis's ex. And they're like, what? And then we flash to 6 hours earlier where Gina's on the phone and saying, are you with Nicholas? Because she's calling my fucking son. That's so violating. Gina in the scene goes, I haven't seen my stepson in a month. And Jen's like, because of Travis? And they're like, no, he's not at school still. And Heather goes, it's just outrageous. And Emily goes, he should be in front of a judge immediately. And then Joe brings a espresso martini and it immediately gets spilled. And they're like, woo! Ooh, it's the ghost. It's Pierre the ghost that spilled that martini, Heather. Come on. and it's spilled on Heather's back. And Jenn says, of all the people Pierre picked Heather, oh, you know Heather hates to be spilled on. Pierre's trying to get Heather out of that dress. Pierre's like, let's see you without those clothes. Let's see the work of Terry Dubrow. Jenn says, that dress is probably more than my whole month's rent before I got evicted. And so then Gretchen goes to the bathroom to take a shit. And, I don't know. So Gretchen leaves. And Emily goes to Tamra and Emily says, I feel like you and Gretchen need to have a sit down. That's so classic Housewives trope of like, I feel you need to have a conversation with this person. And Gina's like, yeah, that's how I feel as well. And Tamra goes, I would rather talk to Jenn. And Jenn's like, what did I do? And Gina goes, we're going to go in chronological order. And Tamra's like, yeah, just have them all come to me. And Heather goes, I think that's a good idea. Can I tell you something? I think that's a good idea. And Gina goes, not tonight. Tonight, we're going to have fun, okay? And we cut to our final commercial. The food gets delivered. Everybody's talking about Gina's turtle soup. And Emily's like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to eat turtle soup. And I was like, I bet I could. I bet I could. And if you didn't take the $1 million, that's ridiculous. You got to provide for your family. And then Shannon's like, Adam from Love Hotel called me today. And they're like, of course he did. And Jen's like, Shannon, what's your deal? I was like, what's your deal? Question mark. No, he goes, what's your deal? If you could create your perfect man on a vision board, who is he? And Shannon goes, for me, the number one is kind heart, kind eyes, kind heart. And Heather goes, would you date a short man? And Emily's like, huh? Hello? And then they're joking because Shane is short. And they're all laughing. And Emily goes, I feel like that was very hurtful. And Heather goes, it was not. And then Heather gives us, listen, Terry wears lifts like Jax Taylor on the Valley reunion. And Jenn goes, a lift? And Heather's like, yes, he has those shoes with the lifts in them. And Tamra goes, he's been doing that for years. And Heather in a talking head says, Terry's lifts are from China. And sadly, his shoes are not just going to be high, but highly priced. Won't be getting any new ones anytime soon. Oh, yes, we're poor all of a sudden. Oh, because of the tariffs. And then Heather goes, by the way, you have a bevy of men around you as well, Shannon. And Shannon's like, well, they enjoy spending time with me, but they don't want to be intimate with me, which leads me to believe Shannon's like, do you want to touch them? Katie says, I can't imagine being single. And Tamra goes, I can't imagine having to give blowjobs and get on top again. And Emily's like, no, I don't do that. Wow, really finding out a lot on Bravo about the women not enjoying blowjobs. Not that anybody should or would, I don't know, but it's just wild. And Heather, the queen of decorum, is like, by the way, what's your favorite position? And Emily goes, from behind. I like it from behind so I can watch TV. In a talking head, Emily goes, I watch all kinds of different things, but I like my 600-pound life. And the producer goes, you like sex from behind and you watch 600-pound life? And Emily's like, in the scene, Emily goes, if I could add snacks in there at the same time, I'd do it. Poor Shane's just drilling Emily from behind, watching TLC, eating bonbons. And then Shannon goes, what's your favorite position, Dubrow? And Dubrow goes, this is going to come as a big shock to everybody. And Gina goes, she's on top. She likes to be on top, in control. And Heather goes, thank you. Yes. And then Emily goes, oh, Terry, tell me about our stock portfolio. Oh. And Heather's laughing. I love it. That's very funny, actually. And it was like, Terry, oh. And we're all giggling about Terry Dubrow having sex. I love relatable. And then Tamra goes, I want to see videos. And Heather goes, we've never made a sex video. And Katie goes, what? Well, I love that this is the shot. What? Are you telling me there's not a Terry Dubrow sex video out there? And Heather goes, why? You have? And Shannon goes, of course Katie has. She records everything. Whoa, mic drop. That's just what she does. And Katie's like, oh, you're right. Always. I bet she's recording right now. And Katie in a talking head goes, I feel like we should move past this, but she can't let it go. And it's just something for her to complain about. Welcome to Housewives. And yeah, she does deserve to complain about it for a little bit. And then Heather's like, Tamra, it's your turn. And like Tamra's like, I just like watching Eddie jack off. No, Tamra goes, from the side. And they're like, what? And Tamra's like, from the side. And Heather's like, oh, so you can finish easy and go to bed? And Tamra's like, yep. And then she's like, I'm going to show you. And then she steps away from the table, and poor Joe, the waiter's coming in as Tamra's getting on the hardwood floors. And she lays on the side, and Emily lays behind her. And Tamra's like, yeah, and then you just put your wiener in. I mean, by the way, the ghost Pierre is like, fuck it, I'm not going to haunt this place anymore. I'm out. I'm going to go to Carl's Jr. downtown. This is wild. But Joe doesn't look like he's loving this. And Gina goes, that's lazy girl shit on your side. Come on. Joe giving great reaction shots. He is in the pantheon now of waiters giving reaction shots. And Jenn says, by the way, you know my private parts don't work. And Gina goes, your vagina's broken? Did Gretchen break it? And Tamra goes, the hole's closed up? And Jenn goes, I had a surgery. And so right now I would take any position and he can barely fit it in right now. And Gina makes a gross face and I make a gross face and we all make a gross face. And Tamra goes, oh my God, is it like one of those like laser surgeries? And Jen's like, it was pelvic floor surgery. I would have rather seen the pelvic floor surgery than them going to their dental implant person last week. And Jenn goes, it's literally just the tip right now that he can fit in. A very special episode of Real Housewives of Orange County. And Gina's like, well, Ryan's a fucking saint. You know, you don't have to say no more. And then Katie goes, her mouth must be tired. And Gina goes, guys, I'm having so much fun. And I'm really having so much fun. And I know that some of us might have our differences, but I think it's really nice that everybody can be here. And then all of a sudden her voice gets distorted and the vision gets blurry. And he's like, I'm happy you're all here. Roll. And then we're like flash forwarding. 24 hours later, the Chiron pops on screen. And we hear people screaming at each other. I can't stand you. And Shannon goes, Katie, you're known as the leak. And Katie's like, I didn't say it. And Shannon goes, stop lying. It's on my fucking plate. And then Jenn goes, let's just all have it out. Tamra, what's the intent of the picture of me? And then Jenn saying, there was a time in my life where I was home raising my family. And Tamra saying to Jenn, it's none of your fucking business. And Gretchen says, oh, wow, okay. And Gina's like, you're being rude, Tamra. And you're slosh, Tamra. And Tamra steps away from the table. And Tamra's talking to Heather of like, how do I do this? And Heather's like, I don't know. And Gretchen at the table going, she's losing her mind. And we see Tamra going down industrial stairs going, I'm out. And then Gina goes, Tamra just texted me and said she quit. And Heather goes, what? Zoinks. That is next week on Real Housewives of Orange County. And that brings us to the end of another recap. Woo! We did it. We're finished. There'll be a new episode on the Patreon this weekend. Have the best weekend. What do we always say? Eat something good, drink something great, hang out with people you love, check in with yourself, watch TV, maybe not reality TV, go maybe exercise, go for a walk. But if you don't want to do that, just stare at a wall. Whatever you do, it's great, it's fine, it's perfect. And I'll see you bright and early on Monday for an all-new Pop Culture Roundup with Sophie Ross. Have the best weekend ever, folks. Bye. Tamra on her side.